Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. It's Wednesday the 18th of May. I'm Andrew Wilson and this is Scotland at 7. This evening I have the latest daily update from Ukraine on day 84 of the illegal Russian invasion, and then I will take a look at today's headlines from Scotland and around the world. Russia's defense ministry said 694 Ukrainian fighters who had been under siege at the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol had surrendered over the last 24 hours. The Russians claim that 959 combatants have surrendered in total at Azovstal since Monday, and that 80 of those who surrendered were wounded, of whom 51 have been taken to hospital. The numbers have not been independently verified. Denis Pushilin, the head of the self-proclaimed Republic of Donetsk, has told local media that a court will decide the fate of the Ukrainian fighters who surrendered at Azovstal. Russia claims that 270 Ukrainian fighters were killed and 54 units of military equipment were disabled overnight. It also claimed to have shot down 2 planes and 15 drones. The State Emergency Service of Ukraine said it neutralized 685 explosive devices on Ukrainian soil on Tuesday alone. The latest intelligence update from the UK Ministry of Defence highlights Russia's significant resourcing problems in Ukraine, which it says is likely contributing to a disunited command which continues to hamper Russia's operations. Vadim Shishimarin, 21, will appear at Kiev's Solomyansky District Court from 2 p.m. local time, charged with war crimes and premeditated murder over the death of a 62-year-old man in northeast Ukraine on the 28th of February. The International Criminal Court on Tuesday sent a 42-member team to Ukraine to investigate alleged war crimes since the Russian invasion, in what it called the largest such deployment in its history. The US will create a new unit to research, document and publicize alleged war crimes by Russia in Ukraine. The Conflict Observatory will capture, analyze and make widely available evidence of Russia-perpetrated war crimes and other atrocities in Ukraine, the US State Department said. The Kremlin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said there was no movement in peace talks with Ukraine, and claimed that Kyiv was showing a total unwillingness to continue them. And the UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has said that the UK is open to the idea of an international criminal tribunal trying Vladimir Putin and other Russian leaders over the war. A Russian tank commander has pleaded guilty to shooting dead a 62-year-old man as he rode his bicycle down a village road in Ukraine's first trial for war crimes committed during the Russian invasion. Vadim Shishimarin, 21, sat emotionless as prosecutors detailed charges that he had fired his AK-47 at the unarmed cyclist from the window of a car in the northeastern Sumy region in late February. Prosecutors have moved fast. It is extremely unusual to hold a trial while a conflict is still ongoing, and unprecedented to do it within weeks. The victim was shot dead less than 3 months ago, in the first days after the invasion, but Ukraine has made seeking justice for atrocities committed by Russian forces a priority. National prosecutors are risking their own lives to collect evidence of war crimes, even in areas still threatened by enemy forces or laced with mines. The case is being heard by 3 judges, who must reach a unanimous verdict for the suspect to be convicted and sentenced, even after the guilty plea. He faces life in jail for the killing. The court will hear testimony from 2 witnesses. One is the victim's wife, who was in the court to watch Shishimarin acknowledge murdering her husband, and another is a Russian soldier who was in the car with him at the time of the shooting and was later taken prisoner by Ukrainians. They will also be presented with evidence, including the alleged murder weapon, in hearings that are expected to last for 2 days. Shishimarin comes from the Ust-Ilyinsk in the southeast Irkutsk region of Russia and was a commander of the Kantemirovskaya tank division on the day of the killing, 28th of February, in the Chupakivka village. Prosecutors say a group of Russian soldiers shot at a civilian vehicle after their convoy came under attack from Ukrainian forces, then stole the car and drove it away. They later came across the unarmed victim, who was talking on his phone just a few dozen meters from his own home. One of the men in the car told Shishimarin to kill the civilian so he would not report them to Ukrainian defenders, according to prosecutors. He opened fire out of the car window and shot the man. That instruction to open fire could not be considered a military order that might protect him from responsibility, the prosecutor Andrei Siniu told journalists outside the court. Ukrainian prosecutors have the support of several teams of international investigators and forensic experts, but face a mammoth task. Over 1,000 bodies have been unearthed from mass graves in the town of Bucha alone, and dozens of rapes have been reported. The Ukrainian Prosecutor General, Irina Venediktova, is preparing over 40 cases for war crimes trials, and authorities say they have registered more than 10,000 war crimes, including attacks on hospitals. Large swathes of Ukrainian territory are still under Russian control, and abuses have been widespread in all areas liberated from its forces to date, so the toll is expected to rise considerably if other areas fall back under Kyiv's control. Human Rights Watch also said on Wednesday that it had documented further apparent war crimes by Russian troops around Kyiv and the Chernihiv regions, including 22 apparent summary executions, 9 other unlawful killings, 6 possible enforced disappearances, and 7 cases of torture. Sweden and Finland have formally submitted their applications to join NATO, but Turkey has blocked an early move to fast-track the Nordic countries' requests, demanding they extradite terrorists and that the alliance respect its concerns. The NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg accepted the 2 historically non-aligned Nordic countries' membership requests, each in a white folder embossed with their national flags, at the US-led Defensive Alliance's HQ in Brussels on Wednesday. I warmly welcome the requests by Finland and Sweden to join NATO. You are our closest partners, Stoltenberg told the 2 countries' ambassadors, hailing the occasion as a historic step and a good day at a critical time for our safety. However, multiple reports cited diplomatic sources as saying that Turkey later blocked a vote by NATO ambassadors on opening talks immediately, suggesting the first stage of the accession process may take longer than the 2 weeks the alliance had planned. The enlargement must be approved by all 30 NATO members and then ratified by their parliaments, which could take up to a year. The alliance has said it wants to move as fast as possible, given the potential Russian threat over Finland and Sweden's heads. The 2 Nordic countries' applications represent a radical redrawing of Europe's security landscape in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and, if successful, would represent the most significant expansion of NATO in decades, doubling the alliance's border with Russia. Stoltenberg said that NATO would take into account the security interests of all members and was determined to work through the issues and reach rapid conclusions. All allies agreed on the importance of enlargement, he said, adding, "We all agree we must stand together and that this is an historic moment we must seize." Turkey accuses Sweden and Finland of harbouring members of Kurdish militant groups it considers terrorist organisations, and also objects to their decisions in 2019 to ban arms exports to Ankara over Turkey's military operations in Syria. NATO, the US and other allies, as well as Helsinki and Stockholm, have all said that they are optimistic they can overcome Turkey's objections. Analysts believe that President Erdogan, who faces elections next year, is largely seeking concessions to score domestic political points and ultimately is unlikely to veto the 2 Nordic applications. UK inflation soared to 9% in April, its highest level for more than 40 years, as the rising cost of gas and electricity pushed household energy bills to record levels. The escalating cost of food and transport also contributed to the rising cost of living, deepening the crisis affecting millions of low and middle income families. Business groups said that all sectors of industry and commerce were suffering from the steep rise in energy and fuel costs, with many facing a similar shock to their finances as seen during the pandemic, but without the same level of government support. The Office for National Statistics said the 54% increase in the energy price cap in April, which took the average annual gas and electricity bill close to £2,000, was the main reason for the jump in the Consumer Prices Index from 7% in March. Average petrol prices rose to a record 161.8 pence a litre in April, and diesel was another factor behind the increase after the average cost at the pumps hit a record high of 176.1 pence a litre, an average increase of 31.4% over the last year in both motor fuels. Food banks have reported an increase in demand for food packages after the rise in energy bills, while many small business owners have said a combination of higher costs and tax increases have pushed them to the edge of bankruptcy. Figures from the Resolution Foundation showed the poorest tenth of households faced an inflation rate of 10.2% in April, significantly higher than the 8.7% affecting the top 10% of earners. The Institute for Fiscal Studies think tank suggested the inflation rate experienced by the poorest households could be closer to 11%. Responding to these statistics, our Economy Secretary Kate Forbes said, "These statistics show the impact of the cost of living crisis is already having for so many, with inflation now at its highest level for 40 years. The pressure is especially severe for households on the lowest incomes, who are being disproportionately affected and are struggling to afford everyday essentials. The UK's inflation rise is greater than that in most other major economies, with Brexit pushing up food prices in the UK. The UK government has a duty to act to help the millions of people who are already struggling to pay their bills, buy essentials, and whose financial situation will only get even worse without urgent action." The Scottish Government, she continued, is investing almost £770 million a year to tackle the cost of living pressures, including Scottish social security payments that are not available elsewhere in the UK. "We have taken significant action to support people through our measures to tackle child poverty, including the introduction of 5 family benefits, such as the Scottish Child Payment, which doubled to £20 per week in April and will rise further to £25 by the end of the year. We have also mitigated the impact of UK government policies like the bedroom tax, as well as increasing 8 Scottish benefits by 6%. However, most of the key powers needed to tackle the crisis sit with the UK government, and that is why the Scottish Government has called on them to introduce a temporary cut in VAT on energy bills, take action on the Warm Homes Discount, and increase benefits. We have also called for 4 nations discussions to develop an effective response to the energy bill increases." She went on, "We are also calling on the UK government to implement a one-off windfall tax on companies benefiting significantly higher profits through the pandemic and energy crisis, so they shoulder a fair share of the burdens people are facing. Yesterday's vote in the House of Commons shows they are still unwilling to do so, and the UK government should now devolve the necessary powers to the Scottish Government and enable us to take action." The EU plans a massive increase in solar and wind power and a short-term boost for coal to end its reliance on Russian oil and gas as fast as possible. In a plan outlined earlier today, the European Commission said the EU needed to find an extra £178 billion over the next 5 years to pay for phasing out Russian fossil fuels and speeding up the switch to green energy. Senior officials conceded that in the short term, the race to get off Russian gas would mean burning more coal and nuclear energy. The plan, drawn up in response to the Kremlin-ordered invasion of Ukraine and subsequent soul-searching about Europe's dependence on Russian gas, proposes upgrades to the EU Green Deal, the bloc's flagship policy to confront the climate crisis. the Commission proposed that 45% of the EU's energy mix should come from renewables by 2030, an advance on the current 40% target suggested less than a year ago. Officials also want to cut energy consumption by 13% by 2030 compared with 2020, in comparison with the current proposal of a 9% cut. It is clear that we need to put an end to this dependence, and a lot faster than we had foreseen before this war, said Frans Timmermans, the EU official in charge of the Green Deal. Contrasting the call to find €210 billion to spend on new energy infrastructure, including wind farms and solar panels, he said the EU is spending €100 billion a year on Russian fossil fuels. Speeding up the transition means that money can stay in Europe, can help bring down the energy bills of European families, and will not be used to finance this barbaric war in Ukraine. But phasing out Russian gas means that coal-fired power plants might also be used longer than initially expected, states the EU strategy. The decision to quit Russian gas has also led to a scramble to increase Europe's imports of liquefied natural gas from countries such as the US and Qatar, as well as pipeline gas from Azerbaijan. The European Commission said it would be necessary to spend up to €12 billion, about 6% of the extra €210 billion needed, to build LNG terminals and to upgrade oil plants to allow EU member states to switch to non-Russian fossil fuels. Timmermans said the EU could still meet its target of net zero emissions by 2050. You might use coal a little bit longer, that has a negative effect on your emissions, adding, if we can actually do what I say, reduce our energy consumption in combination with a speedier introduction of renewables, we will bring down our emissions even quicker than before. He continued, to help speed up renewable energy, the EU wants to make it easier for companies to build wind and solar farms. Officials said it could take up to 9 years to get a permit for a wind farm and 4 for solar. And this is time we do not have, said one. Any change in planning laws would require action from national and local authorities. The UK government's plan to walk away from parts of the Northern Ireland Brexit deal is destroying the repaired relationship with the EU, political leaders and diplomats have said. Leo Varadkar, Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister, told a business dinner in Dublin on Tuesday night that the move was breeding mistrust in EU capitals. A measure of the anger and disbelief within the EU was reflected in a tweet posted by the German diplomat Sebastian Fischer, considered one of the most mild-mannered of his cadre in Brussels. Let's just all threaten each other with breaking international law. Makes for really good partnerships. #Brexit, he tweeted on Tuesday evening. There is a growing feeling of disbelief and disappointment in the EU over the UK's position, given the goodwill that the Prime Minister had built up over Ukraine. One EU diplomat said unilateral action was neither necessary nor desirable, adding that the timing could not have been worse. One would imagine that the Foreign Secretary to be well placed to assess the geostrategic implications of her actions, but she seems to prioritise domestic policies over peace and stability on the European continent, the source said. The fact that the UK government is talking openly about breaching international law is a matter of concern, Varadkar said. It stands in contrast with the enormous leadership the UK government is showing in supporting Ukraine against Russia, which has breached international law in a very serious way, the Deputy Prime Minister said. He co-designed the protocol with Johnson in October 2019 to deliver a breakthrough that helped the Conservative Party leader present what he described as an oven-ready deal to the electorate in an election the following December. There are fears that the relationship between London and Brussels, which had deteriorated badly over the past 4 or 5 years due to Brexit, has once again been damaged. EU negotiators are said to be frustrated at what they see as the UK government's failure to engage with proposals to reform the Northern Irish Protocol that were laid out by the European Commission Vice President Maroš Šefčovič last autumn. MPs have written to the UK's Transport Secretary demanding answers on why his department authorised a private flight to depart from Inverness Airport to Moscow. The SNP Transport spokesperson Gavin Newlands MP and the local Inverness MP Drew Hendry have written to Grant Shapps asking exactly who gave the authorisation for the flight to depart despite a Notice of Air Missions (NOTAM) to prevent such flights. The letter follows a report by the Press and Journal newspaper which uncovered a memo confirming that the UK government gave the flight authorisation, even after the Transport Secretary accused Inverness Airport of failing to comply with the NOTAM regulation. Commenting, the MP for Inverness, Nairn, Badenoch and Strathspey, Drew Hendry, said the UK Transport Secretary must first apologise for scapegoating Inverness Airport and then set the record straight that it was his department that authorised the flight. He must then answer the pressing questions over why this flight was allowed to take off and who and what was on it. These are important questions following a raft of reports showing how much Russian money is swilling about the Tory coffers. The SNP Transport spokesperson Gavin Newlands said, "This whole situation grows murkier by the day, something we are becoming used to with this Westminster government mired in sleaze and scandal. The public deserve a clear and transparent answers immediately, otherwise suspicion will understandably grow over why the UK Tory government has allowed private flights with Russian citizens, wealth and assets to flee to Moscow at a time when only humanitarian flights should have been permitted." The SNP MP Chris Law today challenged the Foreign Secretary over her international development strategy, saying it is an insult to the global poor. During a Westminster Select Committee, the SNP's international development spokesperson slammed the UK government's development strategy for prioritising trade deals with middle-income countries rather than confirming exactly when the aid budget would be reinstated to the UN target of 0.7% of gross national income. The cut to the UK aid budget, a total of £4 billion since 2020, has led to 105,000 additional preventable deaths across the globe, 105,000 fewer children receiving COVID vaccine, 9 million fewer women supported to access clean water and sanitation, and 7.1 million children losing access to education, of whom 3.7 million were girls. This is despite a Tory manifesto commitment to stand up for the right of every girl in the world to have 12 years of quality education. The SNP has urged Liz Truss, who was giving evidence to the International Development Committee, to follow Scotland's lead on the international stage. The Scottish Government, in contrast, has pledged to increase its aid budget by 50%, double its climate justice funding, and uphold its good global citizen ethos within its recently published Global Affairs Framework. Commenting, the SNP's international development spokesperson Chris Law MP said, "The UK government's international development strategy is another Tory policy failure and an insult to the global poor. As always when it comes to the Tories, the poorest are never the priority." The Tories, unsurprisingly, are treating international development as a business and profit venture instead of focusing on protecting and safeguarding those in the most acute need around the world. North Carolina Republicans voted to end controversial freshman Congressman Madison Cawthorn's time in office on Tuesday after a string of self-inflicted controversies turned major figures in their party against him. A nude video claims he was invited to a cocaine-fueled Washington orgy by leaders he respected, 2 attempts to carry a gun onto an airplane, and calling the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky a thug in the midst of a Russian invasion turned colleagues against the 26-year-old, who is Congress's youngest member. A last-minute plea by former President Donald Trump to give the first-term congressman a second chance was not enough to hold off a challenge by State Senator Chuck Edwards, 61. Edwards won 33.4% of the vote to Cawthorn's 31.9%, according to Edison Research. Cawthorn congratulated Edwards on Twitter and urged the party to unite behind him. His spokesman, Luke Ball, said that Cawthorn had called Edwards to concede defeat. The establishment Republicans in North Carolina are embarrassed by Madison Cawthorn, said Chris Cooper, a political science professor at Western Carolina University, situated in the 11th Congressional District that Cawthorn represents. His antics motivated a Republican super PAC in the state to rally around Edwards, who eked out a win on Tuesday with enough of the vote to avoid a runoff. Cawthorn was seen as a rising star of the Republican Party after the political newcomer defeated a Trump-endorsed candidate in 2020. This time, Cawthorn had Trump's endorsement, and the former president pleaded on his behalf on the day before Tuesday's primary. Cawthorn saw his lead in opinion polls collapse over the past 2 months amid a barrage of attacks from two super PACs with backing from Republicans and Democrats. The SNP has claimed that former Tory frontbencher Adam Tompkins has let the cat out of the bag after he admitted that Scotland would vote yes in an independence referendum. Writing in the Herald, Professor Tompkins cites Brexit, COVID mismanagement, the callous disregard and corruption of the Tory UK government, and Boris Johnson as some of the reasons the people of Scotland would vote for independence. The SNP MSP Michelle Thompson has said that Adam Tompkins' admission that Scotland would vote yes demonstrates exactly why the Tories are against giving people the democratic choice. They know they'll lose. Commenting, the SNP MSP Michelle Thompson said, "The cat has been let out of the bag, and now we see the only reason the Tories are against giving people the democratic choice over their future in an independence referendum is because they're running scared. They know they'll lose." A new multi-million-pound research programme to develop treatments for lung infections such as COVID-19 and future pandemics has been announced at the University of Edinburgh, with support from a significant donation by Baillie Gifford. The Baillie Gifford Pandemic Science Hub will use translational genomics, following clues from the human genome, to identify and rapidly test new treatments, with experimental medicine methods to quickly evaluate and develop drugs for lung inflammation and injury caused by infection. It will combine Edinburgh's world-class ability to determine a person's genetic predisposition to lung injury with advanced interventional robotics for drug delivery, cutting-edge sensing and sampling technologies, and innovative clinical trial design. Baillie Gifford is supporting the launch with a philanthropic gift of £14.7 million. The university aims to secure a total of £100 million investment to accelerate discoveries to drive clinical translation in COVID-19 and other human lung diseases, as well as aiding preparedness for future pandemics. This investment will accelerate partnerships and translational opportunities with other academic organisations, industry, and other collaborators worldwide. The hub will attract additional interdisciplinary research scientists and clinical leaders to drive this work forward. The hub builds on the success of the Genomic and Stop COVID experimental and medicine projects led by Professors Kenneth Bailey and Kev Dhaliwal. Genomic is a global research study that aims to understand the genetic factors that change outcomes in critical illness. Early in the pandemic, Genomic found the first human gene ever to lead to a new drug treatment for infectious disease or critical illness. Based on human genetic data from COVID-19 patients, they predicted the drug baricitinib would be an effective treatment. This discovery, combined with other evidence, led to the decision to add the drug to the recovery trial, which recently reported that baricitinib was effective in reducing death from severe COVID-19. Genomic recently discovered a further 16 genes underlying severe COVID-19, potentially leading to even more effective treatments. Stop COVID began in the early stages of the pandemic and built on the strengths of the Edinburgh BioQuarter in translational medicine and technological capabilities in lung disease. The hub will bring together expertise from both projects, with critical care patients at the heart of the pathway. To quicken the discovery of new treatments, the team will deliver microdoses of multiple medicines to key areas of patients' lungs and observe if the drugs work on their own or in a combination. The constant risk of respiratory viruses, combined with the emergence of antibiotic resistance in respiratory diseases, means a radical new approach to streamlining drug development and evaluation is needed. To deliver this vision, the hub will harness the expertise of the university's leading data scientists, roboticists, engineers, chemists, biologists, regulatory experts, drug developers, toxicologists, translational managers, and clinicians. And ambitious plans from the University of St Andrews to meet net zero targets, contribute to a just transition from fossil fuels, and take a leading role in driving a successful local and national economy were given the seal of approval this week when its new solar farm was unveiled by Cabinet Secretary for Finance and the Economy, Kate Forbes MSP, on a visit to its Eden campus. The 1 megawatt ground solar voltaic PV development, backed by a Scottish Funding Council loan and supported by the Vacant and Derelict Land Fund from the Scottish Government and Fife Council, will provide electricity to the campus. This move further reduces the university's overall carbon footprint by approximately 5%. With a planned extension of its district heating network, which already pipes hot water from its award-winning £25 million biomass plant to 48 university buildings and 3,000 student rooms in St Andrews, and the solar farm, the expectation is that the Eden campus will be a carbon-neutral working environment within the next 5 years. In addition to providing power to Walter Bauer House and other buildings on the campus, the electrical supply will be utilised by electric vehicle charging points and the installation of battery storage. The Economy Secretary, Kate Forbes, said, "Scotland's colleges and universities have a key role to play in rebuilding our economy and in helping Scotland meet its economic and climate goals in a way that is inclusive, as well as being beneficial on a local, national and international scale." The leadership shown by the University of St Andrews in transforming the Eden campus into a vibrant centre of green innovation and job creation will ensure further opportunities for the university to harness green energy and drive inclusive growth in the local economy. I am honoured to be able to unveil the plaque for the Eden campus solar farm today. And that was our final item this evening. In making these programmes, Broadcasting Scotland relies on the support of viewers and others who value our distinctive approach to news, current affairs and culture. Please help us to continue to make these programmes, to continue to develop the station and to make new programmes for you. If you would like to support us, then please consider subscribing or donating to Broadcasting Scotland. You will find the link to do that on the screen now. Whilst our recent challenges may have been met, and thank you to everyone who has helped so far, the need for financial support has not gone away. There are also other ways in which you can contribute to our work. If you would like to volunteer to work with Broadcasting Scotland, either behind the scenes or in front of the cameras, or in any other way that helps our work and promotes the station, then please visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot and send us a message there. You can also find us on Facebook by searching for Broadcasting Scotland and on Twitter at BroadcastScot. Meantime, Hugh will be here tomorrow evening at 7 with the next edition of Scotland at 7, so please tune in and join him then. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has been watching Scotland at 7 this evening, and for my friends who are Rangers fans, I hope that your team does well this evening. but that's the way it is at very nearly Scotland at 7:35. I hope that you can join us again soon here on Broadcasting Scotland. Bye bye.